Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through the top 10 most expensive brand new cards from the Lord of the Rings set, because my goodness, are there some heavy hitters in Lord of the Rings, and they're commanding quite the price tag. So with all that said, let's jump into it. So let's start things off at number 10 with Dawn of a New Age. And yeah, it most definitely is a new age with this brand new card. An enchantment for 1 and a white enters the battlefield, a hope counter on it for each creature you control. At the beginning of your end step, remove a hope counter from it. If you do, draw a card. Then if Dawn of a New Age has no hope counters on it, sacrifice it and you gain 4 life. Mono white card draw is starting to get more and more support, and this is a massive potential, just absolute bomb of a card draw effect. This is kind of like White's Phyrexian Arena in a way, I should say. Now, it's not as consistent, obviously, because this does have a requirement: you need creatures in play. But hey, if you're playing mono white, you probably have a bunch of creature tokens, or at least a bunch of creatures in play. Many mono white decks go wide. Obviously, this isn't just restricted to mono white. That being said, yeah, that is what is really driving this price, at least from what I can see. And yeah, this is a great resource for especially a deck, again, that might not have a lot of options when it comes to card draw. If you put this in play and you've got at least, 5+ creatures, you're going to be getting a lot of value, again, for just 2 mana, 5 cards drawn over a couple of turns. And of course, I mean, if you've got 10+ creatures in play, this is basically just like a 2 mana draw a card every single turn for the rest of the game effect. On top of that, of course, you can really take advantage of those counters as well with things like, proliferating, being able to get more counters on this, or maybe a blink effect to reset this. Yeah, I mean, at a base level, yeah, this just like maybe draw 1 card and gain 4 life. That's not great, but yeah, this has a lot of potential, and there's a reason why it's commanding such a high price tag so far, again, of $7.86, which of course is good enough for 10th place. Moving on, we've got Aragorn the United, a 5/5 human noble for 4 mana, red, green, white, blue. Whenever you cast a white spell, you get a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2. Whenever you cast a red spell, Aragorn's going to deal 3 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a green spell, target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. This is already a $7.89 card, just inching its way into 9th place, just beating out Dawn of New Hope. And now, yeah, this is a commander that can be absolutely incredible. Again, basically like a multicolor spell tribal, essentially. You can go charms, you can go a lot of different directions with this one, taking advantage of all those additional effects you get based on the number of colors. I mean, most of your deck's probably going to have 3 color plus, essentially, effects. So have fun getting all those additional values out of this commander. Again, creature tokens, extra card selection with that scry, which potentially could be card advantage if you've got certain effects to play like Elgith, lightning bolts, essentially, and also just giant pump effects. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to stop you once you get things going. That being said, of course, there are 5-color, multicolor matters commanders as well, so yeah, this slots into those decks really well. That being said, when it comes to the bulk of the popularity of this card, it's definitely, in my opinion, going to be from it being a fantastic commander. Again, yeah, 4-color. There aren't too many 4-color commanders out there, and this one hits really hard. So I can see a lot of players being very excited about it, and that's why this price tag is already starting to get up there again, around $7 or $8 at this point. Good enough for 9th place. Moving on, we've got Planeteer of Orcthink, a legendary artifact for 3 mana that costs $8.53 right now, good enough for 8th place. Beginning of your end step, put an influence counter on it and scry 2. Then target opponent may have you draw a card. If that player doesn't, mill X cards for X the number of influence counters on it. That player loses life equal to the total mana value of those cards. Okay, so this is a card that is somewhat reminiscent of like the Incombustible Gearhulk, essentially, where it's like, okay, I either get some additional card advantage, or you have the potential to lose a lot of life depending on what's on top of my library, and this allows you to set the top of your library. Basically, again, you just keep getting more and more influence counters on this. You're scrying too, so you can see what the top 2 cards are potentially. If you keep them on top or move them away if they're not that high value, then if that opponent doesn't let you draw that card, that is a big risk. Again, depending on what deck this is in, that is a really big risk to drain someone for a lot. And of course, again, like I mentioned before, you can get more and more counters on something quite easily these days. There's a lot of proliferate effects out there. So if you have this in a proliferated deck, your opponents are going to be allowing you to draw a lot of cards with this. So it's going to be a great amount of card selection and card advantage. And also just potentially a way to take your opponents out if they are greedy enough. I wouldn't say greedy enough, not charitable enough to allow you to draw that card. Because yeah, you can drain them quite quickly. This is a very, very good source of, again, card selection and potential card advantage with some potential pain for your opponents. So yeah, congratulations on your, well, 8th place finish when it comes to price. But now let's move on to the 7th most expensive card from Lord of the Rings, the main set, with Last March of the Ents, and this is a massive spell, $10 already. An 8-mana spell, 6 green sorcery. It can't be countered, so that's huge. Draw cards equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control, then put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. This is a game-ending effect with a massive impact. My goodness, green loves its giant draw spells that usually, either deal with going wide with a lot of creatures like Shamanic Revelation, going tall with a lot of power. This one, on the other hand, is like, hey, massive amounts of toughness. So yeah, get your trees ready, essentially, with this one. You can draw a ton of cards with this, and of course, cheating a ton of creatures from your hand and apply any number. So yeah, not creature tribal decks, I guess, but yeah, creature focus decks, I guess tribal decks would work as well with this, that have a good amount of toughness on some creatures. This can be massive. I mean, even if you aren't drawing cards, you just have a hand loaded full of a lot of creatures, it's gonna be a great way to cheat a lot of things into play. Again, a game-ending awesome effect like this. Yes, costs 8 mana, but you are obviously in green, the best color when it comes to ramp. This can't be countered. This can just be, again, a game winner for you. So yeah, I am not surprised to see this mythic at $10. But let's move on to number 6 with Nas Ghoul, a 1/2 Wraith Knight with Death Touch that costs 2 and a black. And this is just an uncommon. This was very surprising for that $10 price tag, but it's definitely up there for a reason. Enters the battlefield, the Ring Temp Shoot. Whenever the Ring Temp Shoot, put a counter on each Wraith you control in a deck and have up to 9 cards named Nas Ghoul. So because of that last sentence right there, yeah, that's why this one is commanding such a high price tag. Players absolutely love Shadowborn Apostle type cards, those Relentless Rider type cards, those Persistent Petitioners, Dragon's Approach, cards that say, you know what, let's break the one major rule in Commander. A singleton format, we're going to break that. You can have 9 of these. So there's going to be players building entire decks around these 9 Nas Ghoul. And of course, there are, I believe, like 9 different arts for these as well, which is very flavorful. That being said, each of them are very, very, very expensive because, again, although this is uncommon, it's not a rare, it's not a mythic, decks that are going to be using this are going to be using 9 copies of them. So yeah, that price can drive up quite quickly. Again, I was surprised to see this one on here, but yeah, actually thinking through it, not really all that surprising when it comes to players absolutely love the singleton breaking cards like this one. Moving on to number 5, the 5th most expensive card in Lord of the Rings main set is Delighted Halfling. Oh my goodness, $11.44, a 1/2 Halfling Citizen for a green mana. Tap for a colorless, tap add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana, only cast a legendary spell, and that spell can't be countered. Okay. So, basically a potentially better Birds of Paradise for certain decks. This is pretty absurd that this was printed. Again, a low-to-the-ground mana dork that, sure, for most things might just give you a colorless. That being said, you are in green. You've got plenty of fantastic ways to ramp and fix your mana. And when it comes to fixing, this fixes it perfectly, even better so for legendary spells. Any legendary spell you're casting, if you've got Legendary Tribal, my goodness, this can cast a lot of things for you. And it's kind of like a Cavern of Souls where it's like, no, you can't counter that. Sorry. Even if it's just in a deck with your commander, making your commander uncounterable can be a very powerful thing. Obviously, a low to the ground mana dork that can ramp you very quickly, very effectively, very efficiently, fix your mana, and make it so that, you know what, your commander and all your other legendary spells are protected This is huge, and yeah, there's a reason why the demand for this is so high, and that this rare is already $11.44, good enough for 5th place. Next up, we've got Gandalf the White coming in at 4th place at $12.38, a 4/5 avatar wizard with flash that costs 3 white. You may cast legendary spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. A legendary permanent and artifact entering the battlefield or leaving the battlefield causes a triggered ability of permanent you control to trigger. That ability triggers additional time. Okay, so kind of like Panharmonicon and Death Harmonicon in a way, but combined, but specific for legendary and artifact spells, and also giving them flash. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. First up, yes, in the 99 of legendary tribal decks and the 99 of artifact-centric decks, this can be massive, especially ones that utilize a lot of ETBs or LTBs. I mean, just think about this with Sad Robot doubling up both ends of that. That being said, as a commander, this is huge. Mono White is starting to get more and more commanders that can actually compete, that can actually do a crazy amount of things, and this one is definitely one. Yeah, instant speed. Basically, Vidalcan Ori for your artifact tribal deck. I mean, yes, you can go legendary tribal as well, but probably the more powerful version of this, because artifacts can be a bit more broken, is artifact tribal. Instant speed, Vidalcan Ori essentially. Artifact tribal that doubles up ETBs and LTBs. Yeah, there are some absolutely gross things that you can do with this one. There's a reason why Gandalf the White is already in such high demand. A $12 card, good enough for 4th place. Now let's move on to the 3rd place card with Spiteful Banditry at $14, an enchantment for X red. When it enters the battlefield, deals X damage to each creature. Whenever one or more creatures your opponents control die, you create a treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Now, that second part, yes, has multiple restrictions, and it definitely needs them. It's still very powerful, though. First up, this is a board wipe on an enchantment. This is going to deal damage, like Starstorm damage, essentially, to all creatures when this ETBs. Now, if you're just in red, you don't have really ways to get this back in your hand, or at least a lot of ways, I should say. There are other colors that can do that, so you can repeat this ETB if you need to. That being said, once this is in play, this is just going to generate you a lot of treasures throughout the game. The amount of value this can give you is pretty absurd. Yes, you are limited to 1 treasure for each turn, essentially. Again, no matter how many creatures your opponents control die on each turn, you're only getting 1. That being said, yeah, a lot of creatures die in a game of Commander throughout the game. So you're going to be getting a ton of treasures throughout the game with just this in play. Even if you didn't even put any amount of mana into that X, and you literally just got this into play as an enchantment that produces you treasures, you're going to be netting a ton of mana thanks to something like this. Yeah, it's been proven over time that treasures are quite potent, quite effective. So seeing a mythic treasure creating effect that also is a board wipe, yeah, there's no reason why, this couldn't be an expensive card. So, of course, it is $14 right now, good enough for 3rd place. But now let's move on to 2nd place. And thematically, okay, I mean, the One Ring being number 1 would be much more thematic, but still number 2, it is definitely up there at $28.11. And of course, this is just like the base version of the card. There are other versions that are going for much more money, like those serialized ones. And then, the One of One Ring is, of course, going for, I believe the last offer out there was like $1 million if you open it or something like that. So there you go. Good luck, everyone. Anyways, the One Ring is a legendary artifact, indestructible. It costs 4 mana. Not just the battlefield. If you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. Gross. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring. Tap put a burden counter on it, then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. This is a massive card advantage engine that is hard to deal with and also protects you. It protects you. So, hey, if you, bounce it back to your hand, maybe, you could, recast it and gain protection again. So this can be a great kind of delaying effect. Also a good way to reset those burn counters if you're losing too much life. And of course, yeah, you've got either, more ways to actually get more burden counters on this. You can tap it, you can untap it, you can, proliferate to get even more counters on it to make it go quicker. Yeah, you can just draw a ton of cards with this. And of course, yeah, by tapping and untapping it, you aren't really actually losing any life from that action. Again, it's just an upkeep action. So if you've got ways, again, to bounce this back to your hand before you actually lose that life, no big deal. And also, there are some decks that even want to lose life out there, like life swap decks. So yeah, this can do a lot for you. Again, this is a fantastic amount of card advantage in any color. Again, essentially any deck out there can utilize this fantastic effect. Hard to deal with. legendary, works in legendary tribal as well. There's a lot to like about this card, so there's a reason why this mythic is already nearly $30. But when it comes to first place, that is reserved for Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, this card is making a lot of waves. $31.52 right now. If you haven't seen my episode on the rules committee talking about this one, make sure you check out that potential bans episode. Talk about this as well as another card as well. Regardless, a 1/1 Orc Archer with flash that costs 1 and a black in a rare itself, not a mythic. It is the #1 spot, but it is only a rare. I should say, no, not only, but not quite mythic. It's not as restricted in its supply. That being said, yeah, the demand for this is incredible. When it enters the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card except the first they draw into their draw steps, Orcish Bowmaster deals 1 damage to any target, then amass Orcs 1. So basically, ping something and also make an army, or get an extra counter on that army. This has a lot of potential in Commander, especially when it comes to wheel effects. If one of your opponent's wheels, out of nowhere, you can flash this in. Typically, wheel effects, again, what I'm saying is essentially discard your hand, draw 7. So assuming that, and assuming you've got 3 opponents, that's going to be 21 cards that your opponents have drawn. That's going to be 21 damage that you can spread out however you'd like. Maybe to someone's face, maybe to certain creatures. Regardless, you're also going to be making, again, assuming you have no army, a 21/21 token. So yeah, this has a ton of potential. Of course, it can be more easily used and abused in a deck that has a lot of wheels itself to force your opponents to draw. Yeah, it can be good just in certain strategies, again, against certain strategies. This card has a lot of potential. Again, the rules committee is looking into this one, so we'll see how that plays out. But for the time being, yeah, $31.52. Orcish Bowmasters, you are the most expensive card in the Lord of the Rings main set. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so let me know your thoughts are on it in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.